So we continue with part 2 of our live chat system. So far we're still styling our chat system's look, so let's continue with that. Now what we're going to concentrate on in this one is this panel right here on the left. All right, so this is where the user information is, so let's get cracking. So if you notice, we have in our folder, as you saw last time, we have an images folder where there are these images. So I want to get one of these, user3.jpg, and use it in my mockup. So I'll come here and let's zoom out a little bit and go to the left panel, because this is what it is. And then I'm going to add an image tag in there. Now in left panel, I want the text alignment to be in the center. So text align center, so that it can actually center the text and the image. So I'll come back here and I will say the source of this one is UI underscore images, and then it's user3.jpg. That's the source. And then now if I come back here and refresh, you will see that there is this image coming up here, but of course it's way too big. So let's come back and style it a little. So what we will do, instead of adding styles right here, we will go to left panel. Let's come back here. So there's left panel here, but I can make another one here saying left, repeating myself, left panel. However, I'll put a dash and say img. So what this will do is it's saying whatever images, because this is an image tag, that's the tag for img, for images is img. So in the left panel, whatever images are there should have these styles here. Okay, so that's what that means. So what we will do is I'm going to give it a width of 80%. And then I'm going to give it a border radius. Let's say border, let's add border since it's already there, solid, thin, white. Let's try that. And then border radius of 50%, so that it becomes a circle. And let's give it a margin as well. I don't know what margin I can use, probably 10 pixels. Let's try that first. So let's refresh this, and there you can see the user at the corner there, which is all right. So let's come down here and put some names. What's her name here? That's Kelly Hartman. So let's try that, and let me go down here. So of course I will need to put a break tag, and then I will type Kelly Hartman. Then I will put another break tag, and there's an email address, I think, Kelly Hartman at gmail.com. All right, so let's save this and let's see what's happening. Okay, well and good. So now, as you can see, there's a few things here going on. So first of all, what we can notice if I zoom in a little bit is that there's no space between the edges. We need a little bit of space between the edge and this. Now, what we could do is add some padding to this. Actually, that's what we should do. So let me go to left panel right here. So there we go, left panel, and let's add some padding. So I'm going to say padding 10 pixels. Let's see what that does. Okay, it doesn't seem to help because the flex is what's dealing with things right now. So what we will do instead, let's actually it was working. This is the wrong place. I'm supposed to put it not in the image version but in the left panel itself. Sorry about that. Okay, now this is what I wanted you to see. So you see there's a panel here. I've added some padding, but look down here at the end. It's exceeding the other containers. It's pushing into the other containers, which can screw things up. So instead of adding the padding to these boundary divs, what we will do is instead create other divs inside them and then add this padding there. So what I will do is go down to inside this left panel. Okay, so I will create a div. We will name these divs later on because we will use them to collect data. But for now, just leave it there, and then we'll push everything with a tab key inside. And then I'll give it a style, and I will say padding 10 pixels. So let's refresh. And so you see, we get the same padding, but this is not exceeding the boundaries. Okay. Now the second thing you notice is that the font is not very nice. So what we will do is now this is the chance to use our other font. So let me go back to UI and go to fonts, and I will copy this. Oh, one thing I forgot to actually mention on these fonts is that make sure that there are no spaces in your font name. If there are spaces there, put some dashes or whatever it is, just avoid spaces. So I will copy the name, including the file extension, and come back here. At the top here where I created a font face, I will create another one. So to save time, I will simply duplicate this one, and I will simply change the name at the end here. And here I will just say my font, just like that. So maybe I could put a capital F here. It really doesn't matter. So my font will be the font we are using here. So I will add this one inside the wrapper and say font family, my font. So let's see if we get some better font here. There we go. So as you can see, the font looks way better. Okay, so let's compare with this. So in here the image is pretty small, so let's come back here and reduce that to somewhat 50%. All right, and then in the left panel right here, what I will say is text align center. So let's come back here and see what we have. There we go. So things are looking up, but here this one is a bit dim and smaller, so let's have some smaller text for the email and make it a little bit dimmer. So to do that, let's just go to the email itself and add it inside a span tag, which I will close on the other side, and then I can simply add a style right there and say font size. Let's try 12 pixels, and then let's also give it an opacity of 0.5. That's making it half transparent. So let me refresh, and there we go. So everything looking awesome. We are coming closer to that. Okay, very cool. So the next thing to do here is let's create a few buttons down here. So as you can see, there are a few buttons here, so we'll change this part a little bit. So we'll have 3 buttons. We'll have one for the chat, we'll have one for finding other contacts, and then we will have one for the settings if we need them. All right, so to do that, I'm going to use some labels. Now there's a reason that I'm using labels instead of buttons, of course. Now the reason is that I can use labels to activate, for example, checkboxes and stuff. So let me just show you what I mean here. So if I go to let me go to the left panel here, the left inner panel. Where is that? This one right there. Oh, let me do it right here after this part. Okay, so what I will do is create a label, and I'll give it a name. This label, I'll say chat, because this is the chat area, and then a second and third label. So this one will be contacts, and this last one will be settings, like so. Okay, now the important thing here is, let's say I have a checkbox. So the labels are up here, so let's see how those labels look like. You just see names here: chart, contacts, settings. Pretty good. So let me wrap these guys in another div down here so that I can control all of them at the same time. So let me wrap them in a div. Whoop. And for visibility, let's do that. All right, so what I want to do is come down to the inner left panel. Now in here, I'm going to add some inputs. So I put an input here, and I'm going to call this one checkbox. Okay, and then I'm going to give it an ID, which is very important here. Let me leave name alone. Let me put ID. So ID here is going to be, let me just name it box. No apparently reason. So let me refresh. So you see there's a checkbox right there. So I can click on this one and it gets checked and not, just as normal. However, what I want to be able to do is to click on this button here saying chat, but then I activate the checkbox as well. So if you notice, because the ID is box here for this checkbox, I can go up to the label here which says chat. Let me put a break tag here so that you can see those things in line. Now inside this label, what I will say is for. I'll use the property for and then use box. So I'm telling it that this label is for an item named box. So this item is this one. So this name must be unique. There shouldn't be another element with the same name, the same ID. So for this one. So if I save like this, what's happening is that if I click on chat, you see that this checkbox is being ticked. If I click on there, it comes out, click. So I'm activating this from a distance using that. Now this is very important, as I will show you. We'll use this for some animations here, so just bear with me. All right, so let's come up here and let's give these things proper names. So let me remove the break tag. So what I want to do is to style these labels. So it's left panel label. So let me come up here, and there was one which I had styled for the images, left panel, but I will duplicate this one and use label instead. So all the labels inside the left panel will have these things. So first of all, the width will be 100%. Okay, and then let's give them some kind of height, very specific height. I'm going to say, wait a minute here. So the height, maybe something like 30 pixels or so, should be able to do. Oh, just a second. All right, so where is this? There we go. Let's try 30 pixels. Okay. 1 second here, I'm checking something. All right, there we go. So 30 pixels, so let's try that. And there we go. And then let's change the display, because here they are acting like text. So let's change the display to block so they can act like divs. Okay, so that each one is on its separate line. And then on top of that, now let's reduce the font size. There we go. Font size to something like maybe 14 pixels, or maybe that's too much, not sure. Oh, that's what's already there, I think, is it? So let's try 13 pixels. Now, instead of rather doing this here, what I would do is cut this font size and add it to the top here in the wrapper here. That should be the main font size everywhere. There we go. That's much better. Then let's add some breaks up here so that we can move everything over a few steps down, like that. Very good. Okay, now I want to change the color. So there's a color here which has these buttons here that they have. So let me try and inspect the element here on the image. Inspect element, and I'm going to click on body, and let's get the color picker, and let's get this button right there. Okay, so copy that. Let's come back here, label, where are you? There we go. So let's try background color so we can actually see what's going on, and paste. And then I'm going to add a border color below so that I can separate the buttons border bottom, like that. And I'm going to say solid, obviously, thin. Let's try white for now. Okie dokie. Let's come back here and refresh. Okay, so we see something that kind of looks like buttons here. And what can we do to improve this? So the white is a bit too harsh, so what I will do is give it a white but add some transparency. So what I will say is FF, which is white, and then 5 for some transparency. Okay, that's much better. And then what I will do is tell it that I want a cursor that is actually a pointer, so that it changes to an arm when I get here, so that they kind of act like buttons. And then on top of that, I will go to my UI and icons, and I want to use some of these. I want to use the chat, the contacts, and the settings. So let's come back here inside label. Where is this? Right on this side. So I'm going to add an image here, and I will say the source is UI icons chat.png, if I am not mistaken. Very good. Now it's following the styles for this one, because these are cascading style sheets. So instead of that, what we will do is create our own styles for these guys. So back again to label, left panel, label. So what we will do is create another chain here. I've actually never tried this kind of thing before, so from here to there to there. Let's see what we get, right? So what I will do here, I'll simply remove all the styles. Oh, of course, that will not do us any favors. All right, so what we might do instead of having this image there, is to simply name this one profile image, profile underscore image, so that it doesn't affect the other guys. So let's come back here and give this one an ID here, ID profile image. Very good. So that now when we have this, it's going to act differently here, like so. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is make it float to the right, like so. Float to the right, and let's give it a width of let's say 25 pixels. Right, and then what we want to do is create some padding for our labels. So I will say padding 10, maybe too much, 5 pixels, and then we can reduce the height by maybe 20, or reduce by 10 to 20. So let's go and see what happens. Very good, that's what I wanted right there. So this is working very well. So I can go down here now and add more images to the other side. So I will copy this and paste on both these areas, and then simply change from this to contacts, and then down here I will say settings, because those are the names of the images. And as you can see, we have those images right there. And then while we're at it, what we can do is we can create a hover. Let me come up here and right click, inspect, and then I will increase the brightness of these buttons for a little bit and copy that color, and then come back here to the label. Where is this? So left panel, label. Let me duplicate this, and then I will add full colon and say hover. Don't leave a space there. Then right here we're going to change our background color to that color and remove everything else. So I'm telling it that when a mouse hovers over this item, change this, add this background color instead. So let me refresh, and there we go. So we have that. All right, so if I click here, you can see it's activating that, which is pretty awesome. We can use that in the next video. So I will see you as we continue to style this thing.